Lee Jones here from esports.net, and I'm with 100 Thieves coach Goldenglue after getting one step closer, I guess, to Swiss stage with a win against SoftBank HAWKS. I guess let's just start off with the game itself. I think it's pretty fair. It's fair to say it was fairly comfortable, especially game two. You guys were well ahead. It felt like, and I kind of seen the consensus in general that SoftBank Hawks were just like didn't really turn up at Worlds in general, and maybe weren't that strong a team. What are your thoughts on them now that you've knocked them out?
Um, yeah, I felt they were a bit passive in game, and I think they just gave us a lot of our comfort picks and champions, and that I think we did feel pretty comfortable, uh, both through both games. I think we kind of also snowballed momentum through game one and game two, where we kind of just exploded and or made the games explosive rather. So I do think they didn't bring too much, I guess, fight, but still, they made us really work for it. I think at least in game one.
Sure. Um, I saw about game two especially as well. Uh, just a lot of comments on the draft that you guys heavily won the draft. But I wanted to ask about more specifically was their Rek'Sai top. Where did you see that? Did you see that one come into? Was that a bit of a curveball?
I was not expecting that at all. I was expecting maybe a weird pick. That's why we banned the Urgot later. I haven't really seen Renekton Sedge before, or sorry, Rek'Sai Sedge before, but Renekton's a really safe champion. It's really hard to kill. And I could see that maybe in a long fight, if or Rek'Sai's even, maybe he can drain tank Renekton, sorry, the names. Um, but didn't really seem to be able to do that much.
Sure. Um, Evie obviously was against Sniper, and I wanted to ask just a few questions about him specifically. I saw an interview you did with Travis when you mentioned you basically called it like main character syndrome that he's got the way he kind of carries himself, his personality. And I saw as well another interview he did with Cecilia at Esports News UK, where after the loss against Rainbow Seven, he was saying like, yeah, people can call us frauds, whatever, and kind of like taking it on the chin and being really positive. Um, how helpful is it having someone that seems like almost like untiltable like that, especially with the loss you guys had before? It kind of seemed like he was not phased by it, at least from what he saw in interviews and stuff.
Yeah, I think Sniper's energy is amazing, and he really does. I think he's feeling his best and he's playing his best when he does kind of have that main character syndrome. I do think, um, even in front of the cameras, if he was looking pretty positive, I think we were definitely all pretty down after the loss versus R7. But I think he did a really good job, bouncing back
Hmm.
today and having a lot of fun. Having, I can hear him in the background. He's laughing right now in the interview room next to me, which is kind of funny considering we're talking about him. But yeah, I definitely think his energy is really precious, and he's done a lot to, I guess, keep the whole team in good spirits.
Hmm. Is it surprising at all to see it keep up on this kind of stage as well? Because especially with his like being so young and coming into Worlds for the first time, and his opponents so far are Summit and Evie, who are like very well experienced players. But it seems, again, yeah, from the outside perspective at least, it seems like nothing phased him, and it feels like that's like the perfect way to be built for this kind of event. Is that something you agree with at all?
Yeah, I think he's definitely doing a good job right now of turning, I guess, his gaze internally to our team. After our R7 match, he actually got a ton of kind of hate on his Instagram. He was hundreds of comments telling him to retire, and he kind of took it with a good spirit. Just he
Hmm.
just uninstalled, and we just laughed about it as a team because it was kind of ridiculous, obviously, that he's 17. So it is kind of surprising that he's been able to take all this pressure so well as such a young kid, and it's only going to get better.
Yeah. What do you think on the R7 loss specifically? What do you think was the problem there? And maybe what's been fixed already that you turn around today?
Yeah, I mean, I think um, I was talking to the team earlier, but overall, just our energy and comms were a lot higher, and it just felt like we had more fuel in the tank today. I
Hmm.
think versus R7, we still had some guys who were feeling a little sick from travel, some of us weren't doing well from eating new foods, and I think today we felt like we were more adjusted and we were really ready to perform. I think when we reviewed our matches versus R7, it really simply came down to we need to play better. We really didn't play very well, fighting our macro, just kind of overall especially game two and game three.
Hmm.
And I feel like we showed up today.
Cool. Just one more thing on the R7 one as well, or not even so much specifically about the match itself, but um, it seems like it's kind of generated a bit of a nice bit of hype about the merger coming next year, where maybe before the feeling was generally down on it. But it almost feels like basically overnight there's been that kind of rivalry actually created now, and then obviously R7 against Pain tomorrow as well, which kind of might even build on that. What are your general thoughts on what's coming next year? And yeah, are you maybe feeling a bit more optimistic after what's happened at Worlds?
Yeah, I definitely think it was a good showing, and I think even in the, I forget what the tournament was called. Maybe it was called the Americas, where like the #1 academy team went, and they didn't even make it out of a group. So I
Hmm.
feel like um, the Latin and CB LoL teams are definitely showing their strength, and I definitely think people in North America underestimate them, and I really think they are like formidable teams. And so I'm excited that they have shown up, and it will build more hype for next year. And I'm pretty optimistic in general about the new format, so it should be fun and exciting.
Cool. Up next for you then, for you guys then is PSG, and I know they've obviously they've lost matches at this point, but they were generally considered the best team in play-ins. But I also saw from the interview you did with Travis where you said you feel like it's kind of preferential to go into matches as the underdog. So do you feel like you're underdogs going into it, and there's maybe not that pressure that PSG might have?
Yeah, so I do. Obviously, I do love being in that underdog position. I think versus PSG, I don't feel exactly that way. I feel like it's going to be a pretty even match going into tomorrow, just because I don't think they've shown up to this tournament and their games and looked as good as I thought they were going to look. It could be same could be said about us in our match versus R7, but I think we showed up today, and I think if we show up today, if we show up tomorrow, how we showed up today, I think we should be able to win pretty formidably.
Sure. Um, just I wanted to ask about your kind of personal development as well. Obviously, you're here coaching on this sort of stage for the first time. So how much is it about? Well, and especially with the kind of squad you guys have as well, where I imagine you need to be guiding them a lot of the way through what's new experiences for a lot of them too. But then how do you kind of balance that with kind of learning on the job essentially, leading a team for the first time at Worlds?
Yeah, yeah, no, that aspect is not very easy. A lot of times I can tell the guys are looking for me for guidance and um, to be that rock, and I like to think that I am that for them. But sometimes I'm definitely like, wow, this is also like my first time being at Worlds. This is my first year as a LCS head coach, and I think the team around us, our manager Ryan, my assistant coach Sam, my analyst Nathan, they give me a lot of support, which makes it a lot easier for me to like stay strong for the guys while I'm also learning myself. And it feels like a great opportunity to do this. And I really hope, I really don't want us to go home in plans, and I'm hoping we show up tomorrow and like make the community proud and also just make ourselves proud because I know we can do it. And yeah, I hope we show up tomorrow.
Nice. Maybe just one more question then to end on, and I'm asking you this partly because you're the first coach I've spoken to so far at Worlds, and I keep seeing this debate going about have lane swaps been killed off at this point with the changes? What do you reckon? Have lane swaps survived? Are they still all right?
Late swaps are definitely still around. I think it's very good strategy depending on the champions in the game. The extra gold didn't really change anything. I would say the only like caveat is that like if there is a Ziggs in the game, that getting that extra turret plate, like you might break the turret, which is really big. First tower is obviously still really important, but late swaps are going to be seen throughout the whole tournament, guaranteed.
Cool. That's all. We'll leave it there then. Thanks for your time then, Goldenglue, and yeah, good luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Cheers.